Dale here with Pacific Sun Technologies. So I thought I'd do another live video. I really liked what I did last time at that job site where we went over the Enphase microinverters on a project and kind of went over the modules, microinverters, the racking a little bit. A lot of good details in that video that I thought many of you would find appreciative, and it seems like you did. I do plan on doing another video like that one with Enphase, but I'm going to be doing it on a battery backup system instead. That way you get to see all the components involved when it comes to doing an Enphase system with the new IQ8 microinverters and the IQ batteries. So a lot of good content coming here in the near future. If you're not subscribed, be sure to do so. Now, the main point of this video I thought would be really good because we could do some talking on the price increases that are coming to the solar industry. In fact, they've already happened in a lot of the way. So many companies like ourselves have had to secure inventory a quarter sooner than anticipated, just to ensure that our pricing stays competitive as well as the inventory stays readily available for our customers. What you're going to probably see going into Q3 and Q4 of this year is less and less inventory and higher solar panel prices. That's kind of what we're seeing across the board. Much of the industry has done a really good job at keeping costs down, but it's getting to a point where many of these manufacturers just can't absorb the costs anymore, and it's having to be passed on to the consumer. That's the way it is. Everything around us is increasing in prices, whether it's a used car or it's your groceries. Prices are going up, and there's various reasons. It's not just inflation, but you still have shortages due to the pandemic, and now you have even more shortages due to the war with Ukraine and Russia. Now, I want to really talk about the manufacturers that are starting to see price increases and then have sent out internal memos. I did plan to share these internal memos with everyone in the stream, but I kind of decided like maybe I shouldn't share them because they are kind of confidential. They're nothing like super critical. They just literally say, hey, so-and-so company, we're sadly to inform you that due to price increases of zinc and steel and silicon, we're having to increase our prices 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is, due to that particular item. Now, one thing that is going to affect everybody in the industry is the connectors, like your conduit, your LBs, the wire. A lot of those materials are increasing in price. We're seeing around 15 to 20%. It's nothing too drastic, but it is taking into account now inflation as well as just general raw material price increases of those materials, sourcing them from around the world. Now, another manufacturer, I should say multiple manufacturers in the solar industry are the panels. So solar panel manufacturers have done a really good job of keeping their prices low or doing really marginal price increases over the last 2 years. But it's kind of reached a point where they can't absorb any more cost. So companies like QCell, REC, Solar Mission, Solaria, they're all sending out memos of price increases, many of them with memos that only came out within a week or two of their price increasing. So, that really shook the industry, and you just saw companies like ourselves and even larger, like huge companies, just buying tens of thousands of panels from distributors to lock in the prices, because this increase that we're seeing is rather drastic compared to what we've seen previously. Mostly, whenever we get price increases, it's a couple dollars. It's a small percentage, less than 5%, I would say most of the time. The price increases that we're seeing from QCell and REC and others is rather drastic. Now, some more than others, and there's some reasoning to this. If you recall, back in January, February, LG Solar announced their exit from the solar industry. And this kind of created a snowball effect because demand is very high for solar at this time due to the cost of gasoline and diesel. I mean, fuel is just ridiculously expensive. And that's not just here in California being over $6 a gallon, but that's throughout the United States, which I believe is now every state is over $4, which is a first for the nation. Really radical. Not in a good way, just like insanely radical. But That's causing more and more homeowners to purchase electric vehicles and also thus go solar to, offset their utility costs, because an electric vehicle needs to be charged and it costs money to buy electricity. Some states it's cheaper than others. California definitely has a very high cost of electricity. Depending on where you live, some areas are okay if you're with a small co-op, like Riverside Public Utility or Anaheim Public Utility or Glendale Public Utility. The smaller co-op utilities tend to have lower prices compared to SoCal Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, Pacific Gas and Electric, the much larger utilities that we're used to. Now, that still adds cost. I have a neighbor that I was having a conversation with. He's buying his first electric vehicle. It's going to be a Tesla Model 3, just the base model, and he commutes about 160 miles a day. He commutes from here in Marietta all the way to LA. So it's about 80 miles each way. So he's spending about $700 to $800 a month in fuel in his little jalopy freaking vehicle that gets like 30 miles to a gallon. He's literally spending that much on the fuel. Now, if he purchases the EV, his car payment's going to be, he's basically trading in his truck, which he doesn't drive much, for the Model 3. And his car payment's going to be about the same, not a big difference there from going from his Chevy 1500 to the Model 3. But his electric bill is going to go up to an extra $200 to $250 a month. So he's still going to be saving about $500 a month in fuel costs with the EV. But now he's going to have to deal with mileage anxiety because he lives in a condo that doesn't have a level 2 charger. So he is going to kind of have to figure out how to charge his EV within a very short window at 120 volt. It's going to be really interesting. But I'm kind of going off topic. So a lot of this large demand and the exit from LG Solar for those premium panels all of a sudden put all that demand on other manufacturers like Q-Cell and REC. There are others, but those are the two that we primarily work with. Now, Q-Cell has had to increase their cost of modules. They make all their panels here in the US, labor's gone up, importing materials has gone up. There's a lot of other variables going on with their price increase, but it was rather modest. I wouldn't say it was anything drastic. It was around a 15% or so price increase. Now, other manufacturers are actually taking advantage of the situation that LG and other larger companies have exited the market, and they are increasing their prices around 30%. We're adding up to $100 per panel just because. Now, they do plan on expanding and manufacturing solar panels here in the United States, but there's no confirmation of when that'll actually occur. And in fact, some manufacturers have told me that they actually anticipate on increasing their prices again in September just because they want to. Now, I kind of think that's bad business. And it honestly really frustrates me because we, as a company trying to offer products and services to customers, have this variable of solar panel prices that make it really difficult for us to give you a good and fair price. And then maybe 30 days later, that price can't even be valid even after you've signed your contract because the manufacturers are just increasing their price to whatever the heck they want to. And it's kind of getting out of control in my opinion. I'm hoping that some new manufacturers that plan to enter the market, Maxeon specifically, which currently has exclusivity with SunPower. Now, many of you are very familiar with SunPower. We do not offer SunPower modules, and we don't plan to because SunPower no longer manufactures or owns the rights to their technology. They sold it to avoid bankruptcy. You can do some Google searching on SunPower. They've had a lot of this trouble over the years. Enphase has bought a pretty big portion of SunPower. I believe SunPower had sold off a division to Enphase. There's been a lot of things over the years for SunPower to stay in business. Pretty much SunPower at this point is just a solar installer. They offer some financing and they're going to install your system. It used to be, the concept at least was, they manufacture every piece and component related with your system. And that's why it's more, because it's all done in-house, not just the installation, but they control the microinverter technology. They control the racking. They control the panel technology. They really gave you a full package. No one else in the industry has done that. And obviously it didn't work out too well for them because they've had to sell off so many subdivisions. Needless to say, they do have good technology. While I've never done any videos on it, I have looked into their panels, and they are pretty good. Do I think they're worth the price? I don't know. I'm curious to see in Q1 of next year what Maxeon, the manufacturer of the SunPower modules, actually sells the modules at. Are they going to drastically undercut SunPower and sell their name brand of the panels for less than what SunPower actually is selling them? I don't know, but I think it's really interesting, and I think this competition is really good to have a real premium product enter the market and keep these other companies that are offering premium modules honest with their pricing and not just start price gouging customers just because they can, because no one else is competing with them on that same level of technology. Now, in my opinion, Q-Cell and REC are neck and neck in regards to their technology. It's pretty high end. I don't see a lot of other companies that are offering such high coefficiency or efficiency ratings or power output, let alone using half cell design with gapless technology to eliminate the bus bars. They're doing a lot of things to innovate and make the modules better, let alone offer the full 25-year warranties on the equipment and on the performance of the panels. Yes, some manufacturers like REC offer an extra labor warranty when you're a ProTrust partner, which we are, and I think that's great. It gives you extra peace of mind, but the module failure rate is honestly less than 0.001%. So yes, it can happen, but the probability of it failing is really low, especially compared to other companies. Now, here's a little article from Solar Power World online, talking about the Maxeon solar panels that are going to be coming to market. I'm really excited for these. It's just a little blip. There's not a whole lot of information. CED Green Tech, which is one of our primary distributors, is going to be partnering with Maxeon to make sure these panels are readily available for everyone. So we're going to be offering them most likely come Q1, Q2 of next year, because that's when we're expecting to see the panels. We won't see them until then. So with that said, that's kind of it. Now, other technology that's going to have price increases is actually battery technology, and no one's immune to this. So we're seeing price increases with Enphase in this area. So they do plan on increasing their battery technology price, as well as we're seeing Tesla increasing their prices on their Powerwalls. Now, we don't offer the Tesla Powerwall, but that just goes to show you that even companies that all they do is manufacture batteries are having to increase their prices just due to the cost of raw materials for batteries. If you're looking for backup technology and you're looking to go solar, you probably want to go now rather than in 3 or 4 or 6 months. I expect prices come 2023 to be very close to prices that we were familiar with back in 2015. We're really going that far backwards in price because solar has been on a downward price slope for months and if not quarters over and over. And it's just gotten to a point due to circumstances that are out of everybody's control, being a global economy, and there's a lot of materials that make up solar panels and microinverters and batteries, that it's not all just in one place. So prices are now going back up, and it's probably not going to change, at least for the next 4 or 5 years. So the sooner you go solar, the better. You can see that across, buying new and used cars of what's going on. Inventory and supply is going to get tighter and tighter and harder for you to go solar. If not, it's going to get more expensive. Now, with that said, obviously we provide our customers with, the best in class modules that we can source. And really, Q-Cell is our #1 sold solar panel. It's the #1 in the United States. It's been the #1 5 years in a row, and it has really good technology. This is the G10 Plus 400. It's made here in the United States. There is not a lot of solar panels made in the USA. And if you want to have a product that's made here, then Q-cell is the way to go. And I know I'm saying made, and there is a slight difference between made and assembled. So do understand that, you know, these are assembled here in the U.S. They're not 100% made, I believe, under you know, the U.S.'s guidelines for made and assembled. It has to do with where the materials are coming from. So, but this is a phenomenal product, and we really stand behind it. Now, if you want something a little bit better, you know, it is marginal. I've done a video comparing REC and Q-cell. You can get the REC Alpha Pure Black. Now, this module is really good. I definitely, hands down, do not deny that. But it's marginally better. It's still a 400 watt panel compared to Q-cell. There's not a big difference here. The efficiency is a little bit higher. And like I said, being a ProTrust partner, you do get a 25-year labor warranty, which is good for you. So, you know, that gives you a little extra peace of mind. And, you know, I have nothing against that. Of course, you want to pair these up with your Enphase microinverters. Now, I've had a couple customers get a little confused on the Enphase microinverters because there is 5 now with Enphase. There's the IQ8, the IQ8 Plus, the IQM, the IQ8A, and the IQ8H. Now, each one is designed for a range of panels depending on the wattage of them. Now, most solar panels have actually 3 wattages that, you know, can easily be overlooked. These wattages vary from any as low as 200 watts all the way up to 650 watts. You know, those 650 watt, those are commercial panels, and they're enormous. They're not the normal dimensions that you're used to seeing. So the IQ8 is really intended for low wattage panels. Those you're going to see like 250 watt panels, maybe a 280 watt panel, 290 watt panel. You could probably put on the IQ8 microinverters. I don't know a lot of solar companies that are offering solar panels that low in wattage. We've kind of moved away from low wattage panels over the last 5 years. I kind of feel like the industry is somewhere between 380s to 410s. That's kind of where we're at right now, which brings us to the 8 Plus. So if you're somewhere between like a 300 to a 400, you would be doing an IQ8 Plus. Now, Enphase released a new microinverter. There wasn't one in this place before with the 7th generation, and that was the IQ8M, and it kind of fits between the A and the Plus. So this one's really intended for modules that are 380 up to, I would say, 450 watts. You know, that's a perfect range for the IQ8M. If you have a module like LG was offering, the LG 440, you might be doing better off with the IQ8A. So as you can see, none of these have I recommended the H. You know, yes, this microinverter is very high wattage, but it's not really intended for the residential panels that I'm talking about. This microinverter is really great for a 500 watt panel, a 550 watt panel, a 600 watt panel, something that many companies in this industry do not offer because we're not doing, you know, utility scale gigawatt commercial projects where we have, you know, only an acre of land to work with, and we're going to use these enormous solar panels that are 5 feet wide and 8 feet tall. That's where this microinverter is going to come into play, the H. So you should never be looking for an IQ8H. You really should be focused on the IQ8M. Now, I know a lot of companies are actually pairing their modules up with the 8 Plus, and that's fine. If you get like the REC 400 and you're getting it with a quote with an 8 Plus, it's fine. You're going to get a little bit of clipping. It comes out to be about 2.3% in clipping because this microinverter is a little small for the panel. Now, it's not bad, you know, it all comes down to cost per kilowatt hour. If this is more cost effective for your situation, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you want to generate as much power as you can for as cheap as possible. Now, if you have limited roof space or you have better orientation, like it's all your modules are facing south, then you probably want to make sure you get the 8M and not get that clipping, because you'll likely want that little bit more power, that 2 to 3% more in energy that you're going to generate over the year. If you're looking at 10,000 kilowatt hours, 2 or 3%, you're looking at 200 or 300 kilowatt hours more per year. That's a good amount. That's a substantial amount of energy. It's not a small amount. Would you need to go all the way to the A? No. You don't need to spend more money to generate the same amount of power as the M, but the M will definitely generate more power than the Plus. So if you have quotes with the Plus on the REC or the Q-Cell 400s, you may want to have them updated to the M. I've also seen some companies actually showing that they're going to be giving customers the A, and then when they get the installation, they're actually receiving the Plus. So you gotta really pay attention to that. And Enphase, literally, this is exactly what they look like. So when you're doing your installation, and you can go out there and check on the solar panels and make sure you're not getting, something other than what you have in contract for, if they're mentioning your equipment, make sure to check your microinverter, because you want to make sure you're getting what you were sold at the end of the day. If your contract said you're supposed to get the 8A, trust me, that's an expensive microinverter. If that's what they're offering you, then you better get it. You don't want to get short-come to the Plus for your 400 watt panel. I've seen this happen countless times over and over and over. So I'm not, I don't know. It's across the industry. It's not any one company. But make sure you stay really, pay really close attention to that. Now, I kind of wanted to, since I was doing a live video, leave it open to discussion. So if anybody has any specific things they'd like to ask in regards to the price increases that we're seeing here in the industry, then, please, I have the live chat open, so you can definitely ask any questions you have regarding solar. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Now, I think this is a good time to go over that stuff. So let's talk about the Generac power cell system. I see some comments on there. We'll come back around to Enphase a little bit. So we have met with Generac, and we did offer their product early on before they acquired Pika Energy. We did do some of their installations during their acquisition period. There was a transitional, it was called Pika Energy for that system, and we did the installation. It was kind of unique in regards to how the technology was developed. It's more or less a hybrid inverter, similar to SolarEdge, but one thing that they're not doing is optimizers for every panel. Instead, they're doing string level optimization. Now, string level optimization can be good, but it gets really tricky on doing a system design. So if you have a roof with multiple orientations, those string level optimizers, you're having to have 2 to 5 or 6 panels on them. They got to be facing all the same orientation. And then you have to run them in parallel together. It gets really tricky when you're trying to do those systems. As for the battery configuration of it, I mean, their pack is pretty unique. I don't think it's horrible. I think there's still some potential. Now, in my meeting with Generac, one thing I was excited for is they're actually working towards an AC coupled version, making it universal for other products. Now, that's really valuable, because right now the industry doesn't have anybody directly competing with the Tesla Powerwall. That product can fit on any solar system, and it makes it very attractive for many homeowners, because so many of us already have solar, but we want to have battery backup technology. Enphase's product only works with Enphase. SolarEdge's product only works with SolarEdge. And if you don't have a StoreEdge inverter, well, you're having to upgrade more or less your whole inverter system to do battery backup. So that kind of limits you on what battery backup products you can use. Yes, there's Zonin and Iguana, but Zonin has probably the worst customer service that we've dealt with, and we've installed some of their products. For the price you have to pay for their technology, it's ridiculous how long it takes to get service for a system when you have weird, quirky issues because of their software, and you can't even fix it. So Generac, I think it's a good product. Would I go with the hybrid DC coupled solution? No. I think I'm excited for an AC coupled product that they plan on releasing. And if that is the case and they really do bring it to market, you bet your butt I'm going to do a video on it, and we're probably going to offer it because at this time we don't have anything to offer our customers that don't have Enphase already in place for battery backup. So we were offering SMA Sunny Boy storage, we were offering SolarEdge, we were offering Zonin, and we were offering electric power, the PowerPod 2, and we've looked into a lot of different products, and we've had to throttle back due to our experience with not just the product during the installation, but the servicing of the product and customer support. The biggest thing is just, can that company take care of you for the next 10 years? And if they're good and they're solid, sweet, that's great. But how long is it going to take them to service your system? Because me as an installer giving you a warranty is only so good if I don't have the support of the manufacturer behind me. Enphase has done a phenomenal job on customer support, and when any of their battery backup systems, they actually are internally monitoring the systems for us. So if there's an issue with them, they automatically open up an RMA and bam, they send us out the microinverter. They send us out a battery replacement, and we get it within like a week or two. I cannot say the same for any of the SolarEdge systems with an LG Chem battery. That can take months to get an RMA from LG, and it's really disappointing because so many people have SolarEdge with the LG Chem batteries. And I did a video a while back about the LG Chem battery recall. It was small, but it got pretty extensive. So if you didn't see that video, definitely check it out. I've had a lot of comments on that where people have told me their experience. They've been waiting a year and their battery's bowing, and LG just hasn't done anything about it. So kind of crazy to see what's going on with LG, and now their solar division isn't in the industry, but they're going to keep making batteries. I don't know if that's a good thing, but we're not going to offer it unless they drastically change some stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that hopefully that power cell question helped you in that regards. I got a couple other ones. There are some unique battery products out there. I see you're talking about Franklin WH batteries. I mean, there's a lot of different batteries popping up. I mean, I get emails all the time, hey, look into this. And we look over the spec sheets, we're looking over the certifications. There's a lot of things we look at and before we offer batteries now that we've done so many variations of them. There's specific certifications you want to have for your battery. That one will make it easier for the installer to actually install it, and two, for you to have a good and safe experience. I'm really keen on the UL 9540A certification. It's not so much a certification as it's a special test for a battery to pass. And right now, Enphase is one of the only manufacturers that has it, and it's because they're using lithium iron phosphate, LFP. Now that LFP chemistry is some of the safest in the industry. Tesla, I know they're kind of doing some of their electric vehicles in China with LFP batteries, but I don't think they've done anything with their power walls. And more areas in California at least are really looking for this UL 9540A certification that allows you to install the batteries near each other in specific situations. I mean, otherwise, if you don't have that certification, every battery has to be 3 feet apart, up to 5 feet in some circumstances, and you can't be near windows or doors that are considered escape exits due to the fire code. So batteries are getting really scrutinized in the solar industry, and it's kind of frustrating because you can buy an electric vehicle and park the damn thing in your car or in your garage, And it could blow up in your garage, and it doesn't matter. You don't need to have a heat detector or smoke alarm or any other of this BS to own that electric vehicle and park it in your garage. But hey, I want to mount a battery on my wall. I gotta, it's got to meet all these specific parameters. I mean, it's as safe as the car, but yet you got to jump through all these hoops to install it. You as the homeowner, you don't necessarily need to do that, but we as the installer, these are things that we're looking at and we're really taking into account. So all these pop-up battery companies, we're not going to offer them if they don't have the certifications needed for us to actually install them at a cost-effective method. I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours fighting with a building department over certifications with the battery to try and make it work so that way we can install it. This is something everybody needs to look out for. You want to know that this battery is accepted in your jurisdiction, because these codes are changing on a monthly basis, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and hopefully we're going to see some rolling back and leniencies with the batteries, but you still want it to be safe, because the last thing you want is to have a battery explosion in your garage. Yeah, I'll definitely look into more of that. So I want to look at some others with sunlight backup, the batteries. Yeah, so I see we got some comments on Enphase potentially releasing another battery. Yep, there are. I can definitely confirm there is another battery in the works, and I don't have the full details to share with it. It is not going to be like the battery we have today. I do know that. It's going to be kind of a combination of the IQ10 and an IQ3 in configuration. I don't know exactly the full details. I'm as soon as I know, trust me, I'm going to do a video because I want to get you guys excited for the next generation batteries from Enphase right away. Yep, you're correct. If you don't have an Enphase system, you cannot use Enphase batteries on your system. And Enphase, their concern is, the stability. Enphase is really keen on making sure that your experience with their product is as flawless as it possibly can. So they really, set very specific parameters for sunlight backup, for essentials backup, and for complete backup, like large backup. And you have special things you need to do to make sure you have a good experience. Like, they make sure we do things in a very certain way within the software for us to commission it. Otherwise, we can't even turn on the system. So for them to forego control over the inverter technology is something they're having a hard time working on, because they want to keep their battery and the solar system together, because if you control both, you have a much better backup experience. If you look at the Tesla Powerwall 2, because that's really our only one to compare for AC coupled, in a universal sense, when you have a power outage, you automatically are running off the battery. Even if the sun is shining, it's noon, it's in the middle of the summer, there's plenty of power to be had, but the inverter goes into standby mode. That's kind of what the Powerwall will tell it to do, and that's whether it's a Zone-In or Iguana, the battery system is powering the house during that blackout. So that's all controlled through frequencies that are built into the inverters. It's a smart grid feature. So all inverters have this today. And so you can kind of throttle it by changing the frequency within the power for the inverter. It might go up to 65 hertz or go down to 55 hertz. And those mean different things to the inverter for it to behave differently. So you're running off your battery, it's noon, your battery gets to 70%. Well, now it's going to tell the inverter to turn on. So now the solar is going to turn on. It's going to kind of power your home, but it's really just recharging the battery back to 90%. And then once the battery hits 90%, it's going to shut the solar back off. So it's going to do this cycle over and over during this power outage. You could go into a power outage in the evening. So let's say it started at noon. It did this cycling effect, right? You get to 6 o'clock. Well, it's at 70%. Well, it goes to turn on the inverter and there's no solar power. So, you basically go into a power outage at 70% less or 30% less than you would have with the Enphase system because they're controlling the inverter. So during a power outage with Enphase, the solar keeps the battery at 100% and the solar is powering your home. So only as solar production decreases does the battery start to discharge to power the loads during that emergency. SolarEdge does something similar to this. Any hybrid inverter technology is going to do something. Even the Generac power cell. AC coupled batteries have a difficulty controlling that. You're kind of always having to run off the battery. No one's quite perfected it. Enphase is working on it, from my understanding, but it's not something that they fully have figured out yet. They really are trying hard to make their product universal, but at the same time, they want to make sure you have the best experience possible in a worst case situation like a power outage. So it's kind of an oxymoron. You know, we want you to have a great experience during a power outage, you know, like, you know, it's a power outage. It is what it is at that point, you know, as long as you have your essentials, I think that's what really matters. But, you know, like I said, there's a lot of other products on the market. There's a lot of things we look at. Some products, they need a lot more tinkering with than others, and that kind of makes it frustrating. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Enphase, if you have existing microinverters, whether they're M215s, M250s, IQ6, IQ7s, the newer IQ8s, and you want to get the Enphase backup, you can get that. It'll totally work with your system. It's backwards compatible all the way to the M215, I believe. If you have an S280 or anything older, it's not going to be compatible with those older generations, so you would need to upgrade your microinverters. But Enphase is the only manufacturer that I know of that has an upgrade program, so you can call support, and one of the prompts, you know, after you click that you're a homeowner is, hey, are you calling for the Enphase upgrade program? You know, if you have legacy microinverters like the C and S series, they'll basically sell you the microinverters at cost to upgrade your whole system to something much newer, so that way you can, you know, add battery backup, and you would contract with us or another company in your area to basically remove your old system and reinstall it. It's really cool technology for the most part. A really cool feature. I don't know anybody that's ever done that, you know, in this particular industry. So you got to give kudos to Enphase for that, for sure. Yeah, I know you keep mentioning this Franklin. I mean, there's a lot of batteries. You know, we look at a lot of different things. I've had customers ask us about SolarArc. And we're not interested in offering SolarArc. It's a really weird, janky kind of panel inverter. It's cool, but there's just certain products. I don't want to go to your house, you know, every other week to, you know, tinker with it because the consumption CTs aren't working right, or the production CTs aren't working right, or the voltage isn't right, or, you know, the battery's acting inconsistently. Some of the products out there are kind of meant for DIY. I mean, some things we just don't want to take the chance with just because we're not 100% confident with the technology. Batteries are so software dependent. It's not like solar. Like back in the day, a solar system from 15 years ago is stupid, and solar today is still stupid. It doesn't fail. You hook it up, you don't need any special software, you wire it correctly, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. Batteries need software. They have to see what you're consuming, they have to see what the solar production is, so they can charge and discharge. They got to see your loads. There's a lot of variables to them. So if you don't have good software and you don't have constant engineers, it's an expensive investment for someone, and for a company to make and provide a warranty on for servicing, and it doesn't work, you know. So you got to keep, there's so many other variables when you're looking at batteries. You want to make sure you don't get some janky software. It's really pretty critical in that sense. No, I didn't. Yeah, no, I didn't say that. So the Powerwall you're running, so like Zone In, the Tesla Powerwall, Iguana, the solar shuts off during the power outage, and the battery starts discharging. And then at a certain depth of discharge, say 70%, so the battery went from 100% to 70%, it'll turn the solar back on to recharge the battery to a certain percentage, 95%, and then it shuts it back off. So your house is only running off of the solar during those charge intervals. So it's doing this cycle. It's charging, discharging, charging, discharging. during a power outage. That's how an AC coupled battery works. That's universal. That's the Tesla Powerwall. That's a Zonin. That's Iguana. There's a couple other ones out there that I'm not familiar with, but yeah, that tends to be how those things work. Now, other things to kind of the Enphase has done really good from my understanding from their sales on their batteries. So generator gets a little complicated. I think Generac's kind of figuring it out the best in regards to how to integrate generator backup with the balancing of the system. Now, I'm not super familiar with how Generac's doing it, but obviously they're a generator manufacturer. Their goal is to kind of create the trifecta. May not really be beneficial here in California, but in other states like Florida, where you have really unique power outages that can go multiple days on end, or in the other rural areas. There's a lot of states where I know you have frequent power outages and you need a generator. You don't just have solar power, you need a generator, not just the solar and the batteries. So from my understanding, it all comes down to that transfer switch. Everybody's developing a special automatic transfer switch. Since I'm most familiar with Enphase on their product, you connect your solar into there, you connect your batteries into it, and there's a spot for the generator. Now you have to add some special CTs. We haven't done any of the generators. They are specific standby generators, and how it functions fundamentally, which I think is going to be rather universal, so that's why I'm comparing Enphase for your Generac question, is when you turn on the generator is going to provide the power to the home, but it's going to recharge the battery as well. And so its goal is to run as little as possible. So it's going to provide the power, recharge the batteries. Once the batteries are fully recharged, you switch back over to battery power, generator stops running. And the whole idea is to keep it quiet, so that way you don't have your generator running 2, 3, 4 hours continuously. It's running maybe 1 or 2 hours just to recharge the batteries, and then at that same time it's powering the home during that power outage. That's, from my understanding, the best way to go about it. I think that's how Generac also plans on having their system fully integrated with the power cell. And they actually are coming out with a specific power cell generator that it's not released yet. There's definitely marketing materials on it. I think it's like a 10 kilowatt generator, but it's a kind of a smaller generator. Now, one thing I would really like to see the manufacturers do, which is complicated, it's not kind of, is utilize portable generators for the backup. This is something that is cost effective for the consumer and at the same time easier to manage. So standby generators take up a lot of space. You need a lot of room for them. There's a lot of limitations on what the backup technology can handle. Enphase can only support up to an 80 amp standby generator, so you kind of have to throttle. So you can't do like a 22 kilowatt standby generator with Enphase. And I don't think you can do that with the Generac power cell. I think you can only do up to like 12 kilowatts. So in both those situations, it would be better if you had a portable generator. You could pull it out, hook it up. Maybe there's a plug-in, and now you tell your system in your app, like, okay, I plugged in my portable generator, I turned it on, and then it flips the switch, and now you're running off your portable generator for this, for this moment. That is something I'd like to see these, manufacturers like Enphase, Generac, SolarEdge work towards, because standby generators aren't feasible for everybody, especially when you live in a tract home community. So yeah, I mean, just so you know, you likely won't be able to run a 22 kilowatt generator with any battery backup system on the market right now. So Jinko Solar, yeah, and I think they actually make their panels here in the U.S., or they were. I think Jinko's not too bad. It doesn't have the best warranty. It's not the best technology on the market. It's solid. I mean, it's good. It's a good panel. But yeah, I mean, Jinko Solar is definitely a good panel. We've sold some over the years. I mean, it depends on the inventory. I mean, having 5 watts less per panel, if they offset it with adding another panel, it's probably not a big deal. Kind of unique that they installed the IQ8H on those. I mean, I kind of think you may have overspent your money, but it depends on where you live, your orientation, your specific situation. I'm not sure if they were trying to use the H and they, were connecting 2 panels together to it. But yeah, an M would have been more than sufficient for the 395s, absolutely. Yeah, from my understanding, there's definitely not going to be any price decreases on the batteries. Enphase is pretty sold on LFP. Any company that is using LFP, they're pretty much staying with LFP. They're not going to change away from lithium iron phosphate. More and more companies want to move to lithium iron phosphate because it's more reliable, it's way more stable, and it's really safe. You want me to look at your solar plans? I mean, you can send it to sales@pacificsuntech.com. We'll take a glance and see how they're doing their thing. And I mean, we're just looking at it. But if you want, let's see. Anybody else have any other comments to talk about? I mean, the whole point of this video is just to let you know that prices are going up. A lot of prices, these increases are out of our control. And some companies, what they're doing is they're buying a lot of inventory and they're going to try and make it through Q3, Q4 without having to increase their prices. Is it going to happen? I don't expect the industry to be able to hold the prices as low as they have for the last year or so. So, do expect the prices to go up from everybody ultimately. And if they don't, if you've got a quote that's super cheap, expect a change order if they don't install it in the first 2 weeks. And no one's going to have it installed in 2 weeks. So, if their timeline's 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks out, which most companies are, you're likely to see a change order. That's a pretty common trend in this industry, is like, oh, prices have changed. Here's your cost variance here. Or you see them just completely switch your panel. Some tactics of other companies is they're not selling you on the equipment as much as they're selling you in kilowatts and kilowatt hours. Like, hey, here's an 8 kilowatt system. It's going to generate 10,000 kilowatt hours. You don't get to pick and choose what you're getting. This is what they're going to do. So they could sell you something that was manufactured 5 years ago, or they could sell you something that was manufactured a year ago, because they're just selling you on kilowatts and kilowatt hours. Is that a bad way of going about it? No, but you're probably not getting the best equipment on the market. You're probably getting good equipment, but you're not getting the best you possibly could. And if you plan on living in your home for 10, 15, 20 years, you probably want to have better than just good equipment. You definitely want something like Q-Cell or REC in that sense. Yeah, that's an important thing that you brought up. The Department of Commerce and doing the anti-circumvention. So what a lot of manufacturers, everybody in the solar panel industry, has been falsifying the origin of materials on their equipment. So what they're doing, we're a global economy, but what they're doing is they're stating some of the materials that actually came from China are coming from other countries. And how they're getting away with that is they're having those materials shipped to these other countries, and then they repackage them, and then they manufacture from those areas, and then it moves on in that sense. So they've been doing that to avoid the tariffs associated with products and materials from China. So some of the price increases are due to the Department of Commerce doing this anti-circumvention and really cracking down on these solar manufacturers that have basically just been lying about where they're buying their materials at and avoiding taxes. Now, I don't think it's right. I mean, I understand that it adds cost, it does suck, but at the end of the day, you should be paying your taxes. From my understanding, the Biden administration is maybe looking into just removing the tariff altogether, which go figure. But I don't know exactly if the administration is going to step in and stop the Department of Commerce. The big thing that's really shaken the solar panel manufacturers is the fact that the Department of Commerce is going to go back 2 years and audit all of them and fine them for backlog of 2 years of falsifying. That's what's got everybody so shaken up, is because they're going to go, hey, you've been avoiding this for 2 years. We're not just going to let you get away with it. You need to pay your fair share towards the economy in this country, you know, for getting materials. Yes, we're a global economy. You got to pay your share. You know, you got to pay your taxes on where you get your materials at the end of the day. If it adds a little bit of cost, or if it hurts your bottom line a little bit, you know, well, try and find another location that isn't so heavily tariffed. You know, don't lie on your paperwork. That's just frustrating. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's still a couple more months before the Department of Commerce does a final vote on what will occur. We likely won't see any fines if the administration, you know, just cuts out the tariff altogether. But we probably won't see a final ruling on this until February or March of next year. So that's going to play a role in the price increasing. And then so now you got prices increase, and then, you know, we have Ed over here making the comment about the 26% tax credit. Well, that's supposed to decrease next year. So now you have prices increasing for this industry, and you have the tax credit almost going away. Is it going to get extended again? I know in the Build Back Better proposal, or whatever, they got a couple different names going on for their proposals to improve the economy. They do have the extension of the tax credit. I think they plan on putting it back up to 30% if it goes to that proposal, or maybe keeping it 26%. You got to keep in mind, the tax credit's been around for like 15 years. Like, this tax credit is crazy. If you look at EVs and the tax credits, they set a cap. They didn't do that in the solar industry. It's just you know, it's 26%. And we don't care if we sell 10 billion solar panels, you know, it's 26%. Whereas with the electric vehicle industry, they set a cap on how much that manufacturer could offer the tax credit. So Tesla's out in that regards. I don't think if you buy a Tesla that you get a tax credit anymore, or you get a really reduced amount compared to maybe Kia or Hyundai that are offering electric vehicles now. So, you know, we got increasing prices in the solar industry, and the tax credit going down to 22% next year. You know, is this going to drastically affect the industry? Are we going to see a slowdown? I don't expect it, because the cost of fuel doesn't look like it's going to go down. You know, and if it does, it's probably going to maybe go down a whole $1. So I think we're pretty much locked in at you know, a $5 fuel cost, or at least, you know, $3.50 in other states. You know, here in California, I'm saying $5 at the minimum. You know, unless there's something drastically that changes within the administration and their opinion on foreign oils, we're pretty much locked in with what we have. So we have to push towards renewable energy. And you need to, you know, take that into account if you can. At least get solar. If you're not going to get an EV, at least get solar, because that money you're saving not paying the utility company is going to save you money in gas at the end of the day. You know, and you're rolling it, you're taking from Paul to pay Piper, basically. You know, in regards to your question on the pricing, basically a 12 kilowatt system. It's all Generac. I really don't know, you know, the pricing too well on Generac. I've ran some videos in the past. If you want to kind of compare it to some of my older videos, I'd recommend that. And then my Battle of the Battery videos, I always, you know, I have Generac in one of them that was done like 2 years ago. So definitely check out that video if you're curious on seeing if it's still comparable to pricing 2 years ago. Generac's done a pretty good job of not increasing their prices. They've done some small ones according to the meeting I had with them, but it wasn't anything too significant. One setback that we saw with Generac is their rapid shutdown. This is an NEC code, 690.12, I believe. What rapid shutdown means is basically during a power outage, or not during a power outage, during an emergency, if, say, first responders go to your house, they want to shut off the solar system so it's safe for them to get up on the roof and start, you know, ventilating from the roof. they don't want to get electrocuted from the solar system. So with rapid shutdown codes, when they shut off the system, within 30 seconds, there should be no DC voltage, and it should be stopping at the module. Well, that's why SolarEdge has done such a good job, because you get an optimizer at every panel. And Enphase, obviously it's rapid shutdown because you got a microinverter at every panel. Other products don't necessarily have that, or SMA, they partnered with Tigo, so that way a lot of companies like Fronius, SMA, there's the ABB, they all partnered with Tigo to do rapid shutdown. And basically got an optimizer, but you didn't get any module level monitoring. It was just there for that emergency. Generac's solution was this little clip called I don't even know what it was called, but it was a rapid shutdown device that basically each panel would plug into, because they're basically string level optimizers, but those devices actually failed. Their Gen 1s failed, and that was a question I remember asking them when we were transitioning over, when we were offering Generac back then, talking to the engineers, what's the probability of this device failing? How do I know if this device fails? How would I be able to troubleshoot it? How would I be able to source it and be like, hey, it's panel 2 of, this group of 22 panels. Like, how do I know where it's at? And their answer was like, it'll never fail. No, it's perfect. It's mechanical. It can't fail. Well, guess what? They had a failure, and it was a widespread failure. And so what they had to do was pay installers to go back to their systems, uninstall the system, and then reinstall it with a Gen 2 rapid shutdown device. I mean, it was such a stupid thing, and I know I brought that to their attention. And I asked about it, and they thought they were better than, I was overthinking things in their mind, but I brought it to their attention before it got serious, and they overlooked it. So I could have saved them probably a couple $100,000, but hey, whatever, who am I? So what do I, 13 on Enphase with backup, no backup. Region plays a big variable on these prices. I don't know if your system's, off-grid or on-grid. I mean, or if it's, ground mount or roof mounted. If you're in California, if you're in Northern California, if you're in Florida, Florida is the prices, seem somewhat comparable to California, and they look a little bit more from what I'm used to seeing. Northern California, obviously is more than Southern California in most cases, just due to the cost of living. Texas, I think, has some of the cheapest solar I've seen, but they also have the cheapest electricity. I've had people send me their bills. I mean, they'll pay like 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could pay that. I wouldn't have gone solar if my bill was $20 a month and I used 10,000 kilowatt hours. I mean, it's like, you're just going solar just for the environment in that sense, which is good. It is good. Oh, you're in Kansas. I mean, I have no idea. Oh, Jinko on the Eagle line. I mean, Jinko's a good panel. Your area is only going to get what it can get and source. REC is a very expensive panel, and with the price increase, depending on when you got your quote, it might be accurate, and the pricing on the panels plays a big variable. A lot of people get hung up on them. The panel is important. You want a good panel. I want to make sure to make this clear. You want a good, reliable panel. You want it from a trustworthy company. But spending double on a panel, I don't necessarily feel is needed, because the failure rate is really low in that sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't see us being around $3 a watt for solar anymore. Most of what we're seeing in Southern California is $330 to $350 right now, and with the price increase we're expecting in Q3, you probably are going to see many many companies offering close to $4 again per watt. As for batteries, it's hard to be around $1,000 a watt or a kilowatt hour. You're probably looking closer to $1,500 a kilowatt hour. It depends on the quality of what you're getting. If you're getting a hybrid inverter, yeah, you might be closer to $1,000 a kilowatt hour. If you're getting a more robust battery backup system like Enphase's with 2 IQ10s, it's going to be a bit more. Yeah, 7 cents a kilowatt hour is crazy. I mean, you're going solar just because you want to save the environment, and I applaud you for that. I mean, that's really good to do. I mean, that's the whole point of renewable energy. If we all just work towards it, we're helping in a small way all together, you know. So it's important that we all contribute what we can, even if it's not saving us money. It's not going to save everybody money that goes solar. But maybe you don't need 100% offset. Maybe you only just get 10 panels or 15 panels. You know, maybe you get a smaller system. If your bill's already that low, like, you know, just get something that's a little bit more modest. It depends on your NEM program in your state. That's pretty important. We have time of use, so a bigger system is better in our state. We recommend 110 to 120% offset. Inevitably, once you go solar, you use more power, you'll leave the lights on, you don't care. You'll run your air conditioner longer, you don't care. You got your solar. So having a bigger system's better for most. And then obviously you want to send back more during the day to offset that higher rate during that peak time. You don't necessarily need a battery at this time in California. That might change if the California Public Utilities Commission and the utilities do make revisions to NEM 2.0 and roll out NEM 3.0. There is some changes that potentially could come. I haven't done any full research on them, but I have received some memos from some of our nonprofit organizations that, you know, I follow in the solar industry, talking about how the California Public Utilities Commission is looking to pass potential solar tax on to the industry. And I haven't, again, read full details into it. I do know Newsom is looking into new taxes for electricity and solar, because obviously more and more homeowners are going with an electric vehicle. So if you got to think California pays the most in taxes on its gas. I mean, we pay billions, and probably close to $1 billion in fuel tax, you know, all collectively in California. But yet we don't have enough in our budget. Don't want to get there. So the state is worried that, you know, we're going to have a budget deficit because more people are going to own electric vehicles than gas vehicles. So thus there's less being gas taxed. So in that terms, they got to look at alternatives. So electric vehicle registration for the Department of Motor Vehicles in California is going to be more. So if you own an electric vehicle in California, they are looking to charge you 2 to 3 times more for registration compared to, you know, a combustible motor. And then they're also, from my understanding so far, as the California Public Utilities Commission is planning on having some form of non-bypassable charges put on the utility bill for the electricity. So we already have non-bypassable charges. These are little taxes for you know, power plants and generators and things like that, and bonds that took to build the infrastructure for our electricity. And then they're looking to add a tax to this for people that have solar. I don't know the full details. Like I said, I haven't done full research, but that's from my understanding so far. California is concerned about its budget. More people are going electric, and now they're going to have a budget deficit because we're not taxing as many people driving gas cars. So, yeah. Offset, we can do 100%. Yeah, I mean, if you can do 110%, do it. I mean, if it's in your budget, I mean, it depends on your state, you know, and it depends on your NEM program, your net metering program. Cheap inverters. Yeah, I mean, Renagi is a very, yeah, I wouldn't do that one. You know, other inverter technology that we're currently looking into besides Enphase, because Enphase really has market share, and I really feel the industry needs some competition in here. You got SolarEdge and you got Enphase. You really don't have anybody competing against either of these manufacturers too much, and it's kind of frustrating. Generac isn't a big competitor. Tesla's not a big competitor in them. Tesla uses either their own Delta Wave inverter, their new Tesla Powerwall 2 Plus inverter, or they're using SolarEdge in some situations. So we're looking into AP systems, and there's also another one called NEP. So we're looking into these 2 other microinverters. AP systems rather big and commercial. They're very common. They have like one microinverter, and usually you can connect up to 4 panels to it. It's pretty cool. Again, it gets back down to the software and the product itself. Is it going to be more cost effective? Is the support there if we do run into issues? Those are things we take into account before we offer products to our customers. So I can't say for certain if that's a direction we want to go, but I really hope these companies can give these SolarEdge and Enphase a nudge and get them to keep their prices competitive, because right now they don't seem to care. They're basically able to name their own price because they have some of the best technology on the market. Other things that we could look into: Generac bought Chilicon. Now, Chilicon used to call me on a regular basis. They were a local microinverter manufacturer. Kind of janky. I kind of feel like it's older style, like M215 technology. From my understanding, Generac is revamping the technology, making it better. They're still going to require a neutral wire up on the roof, which adds to installation costs. The more wire we have to take up to the roof to bring it down below to power the home, the more expensive it gets. And you have to use bigger conduit, so on and so forth. So I'm not too sure if Generac's microinverter, their Power Micro, is going to be a competitor to the industry, but we'll see when it finally releases. It was supposed to release pretty much like a month or two after they bought it, but yeah, that didn't happen. So I don't know. Internally, they obviously decided to revamp a lot of things. I mean, Generac's, they are trying to buy a bunch of stuff. Like, if you've been watching their portfolio purchases, they bought Ecobee, they bought Nereo, they bought Pika Energy, they've bought Chilicon, they've bought like 5 other companies I can't even think of. These are big ones. And what their goal is to ultimately do is have a system that's fully integrated. So you get your home app and you got your generator in there, you got your your inverter in there, you got your solar panels, you got module level monitoring potentially, you've got a lot of different features, and you can control it all. You'll be able to set if this and that features, for automation. Like, hey, if my solar production is X kilowatts, turn the air conditioner on, because it's integrated with those devices. So they're buying appliance manufacturers, they're buying consumption monitoring manufacturers, because they want you to have control over your home. They're looking into the future about these automations and home control. So Generac's doing some pretty big things and making it pretty clear on with their acquisitions. Other manufacturers aren't as clear with their past. SolarEdge has kind of been dabbling with this in Europe. I've had many people tell me that are in Europe that have some of SolarEdge's home automation stuff that it's crap. I don't know personally. It might just be their user error. I mean, a lot of the times it's user error, but it might be crap. I have no damn clue. Enphase is kind of working on stuff like this. I've done a video before on the Span smart panel. We still get calls on it. We don't offer it. We did not have a great experience with the systems that we installed, and it's kind of janky. It's not a foolproof system, and some of our concerns with the product is it's long-term support, because it's not really supported by SolarEdge, and it's not really supported by Tesla. So when you have the Span panel with your Powerwall, that's cool, but I don't know how long it will last. I mean, if they're still a startup, they've raised a lot of money, but they are still a startup, and so time will tell on that product. But they've not been able to get any true partnerships from anybody in the industry, whether it was SolarEdge, I'm talking big guys, SolarEdge, Tesla, Enphase. They don't have any just bam, we support this product, we're gonna continue to support it, kind of thing. And smart technology, smart load control, it seems cool, but at the same time, a $3,500 sub panel is freaking expensive. I mean, it's pretty excessive, to say the least. So, but everybody's going to have their own opinion in regards to that. So, is there any other particular questions or equipment that anybody has questions on that you might be interested in me answering right now? I mean, we've kind of gone over a lot of different varied things besides just talking about what's going on in the industry in that sense. If not, then if you live in our area of Southern California, be sure to visit our website. We really do make it easy and affordable for you to make the switch to clean, renewable energy using Enphase latest generation IQ8 microinverters. We offer various configurations to all our customers. We always give you a solar only option, a small backup, an essentials home backup, and then full energy backup. One thing that we offer that I feel like a lot of our competitors don't is we have in-house financing from Enphase. So we have some very special financing that Enphase has offered us that we are able to pass on to our customers. So we have really great rates available to you on unsecured loans that have no prepayment penalties, no hidden fees, no escalators. And I think it's a great product, and it's peace of mind that if you have issues with your system, you not only can call us, but you can call Enphase, and they'll be able to have all the understandings because we provide all of it to you. So definitely, if you live in our area, please take a second and get a quote from us. We'd love to send you over one of our hassle-free quotes. We have a lot of great information on our website for you as well. So thanks for watching. Now be sure to click that subscribe button down below, and thanks.